Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
What's the maximum number of financial sharks to swim with before realizing you're putting yourself and your retirement in danger? Well, you're about to find out.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Ever heard this statement or something to this effect? Never swim with sharks. As obvious as this statement might appear, surprisingly, there are people who intentionally jump into treacherous waters knowing that they will be swimming with these deadly predators like these fools. The obvious question, why in the world would anyone jump into water drowned with the uncertainty of whether these sharks will safely swim along or at any moment focus in for the kill? Well, as you're about to learn on today's episode, believe it or not, many savers I meet, especially those who are in search of an advisor to guide them in this thing called retirement, are unknowingly jumping in shark-infested waters with their money. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, shark avoidance expert, and the world's friendliest financial fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today, before you go blindly jumping into the financial world's version of shark-infested waters with your money, I'm going to share with you what those waters might just look like before you jump in. But before we take this plunge, let me introduce two young lads who would never toss me into such waters because then they wouldn't have a job putting on this show each week. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, let's imagine you're that typical saver who responds to this show for a second opinion on their money. Let me describe the ideal prospect for our services and our ability to keep them and their money safe from the financial shark-infested waters at every corner. First and foremost, our clients are savers. These are hardworking folks who are more concerned with principal protection than they are taking a bunch of risk. Our typical client is over the age of 55. Retired, or seriously considering retiring in the near future. Our clients are in desperate need of a written game plan to follow. Our clients are typically not very trusting of the financial world, and many, at some point, will admit that they feel like they've been swimming with the sharks. The question, does this describe you? Are you that saver who is tired of feeling like a number to the financial world, who thinks of you as a number? Well, stay tuned as we will share with you what these shark-infested waters look like and how you can protect more of what you've got in retirement by working with a local, trusted retirement planning firm such as Tony Walker Financial as we dive into today's show, Swimming with the Sharks. I'm Tony Walker. This is the Worry-Free Retirement. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This Tony Walker Financial 5-star review comes to us from Carl and Sandra. Our former financial planning guy passed away unexpectedly. My wife and I could see things were no longer as organized. We moved the assets we had to Tony Walker. Trey is our agent. We are very pleased with how they listened to us and invested our money using wise decisions and our needs and desires. We are also pleased with the fact Tony Walker has planned ahead in case something happens to him. His organization will continue the vision for the company. If you'd like to read more of our 5-star reviews, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and as we're about to dive into these shark-infested waters known as the financial world, I thought it would be good to bring in my favorite son-in-law, Mr. Trey Juergens, to help us out with some research on exactly what's going on. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for doing some research on this. One reason we're covering this is the amount of 401k plans out there and the number of 401k plans that are swimming in these shark-infested waters. Why are we seeing this huge influx of dinner seminars and more advertising. What's going on out there in the 401k market?
Yeah, it's baby boomers are getting to that age where they're approaching retirement, most of them with 401ks. The pensions of old are gone. These 401k plans are their retirement savings. And the whole financial world has shifted to retirement planners all of a sudden. And that's kind of what it's looking like out there.
Yeah, that's you're in that cage, and we know what happens when you're in one of those cages and there's sharks flying around. Okay, so as we think about these shark-infested waters of the 401ks, and more people, quote, getting into retirement planning, I saw an article the other day where a lot of these firms we'll talk about this are gobbling up other firms. Now, we won't name the firm. This is a big firm. But you or Wes, I can't remember, did some research. More than 336 advisors with this one firm. Now, we're not talking about all advisors within a 5-mile radius. So I guess my question is, Trey, you're on the front lines here. You meet a lot of people. How in the world is the average saver going to figure out who to trust with their money in retirement?
They have to go visit with about 300 different advisors, I guess. Now, it was pretty shocking because we had started seeing this company more and more, and it just became apparent that there's more and more advisors working for this company. And I started Googling around, as you would, and noticed that not only are there 336 within 5 miles, there's about 600 in the state.
And so you mentioned this earlier, the financial world knows that there's all this money out there. In fact, they're estimating over the next 20 to 30 years, there's over 120 trillion, that's with a T, that's going to pass hands. So the financial world's got their eye on this money. But let's go through a few articles here real quick. And again, we're just mentioning companies and articles. This is Edward Jones, but what's going on at Edward Jones and what are they trying to shift towards?
Well, they're kind of retooling to this planning of all this money being transferred from an older generation to a younger generation. So they're kind of retooling to really push this financial planning more so than just asset management,
which has really been their bailiwick and a lot of people's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just kind of large firms like Edward Jones. Vanguard, which has always kind of been an independent firm, let's look at what they're doing. They're accelerating the wealth management. Look at that. They're carving out $900 billion and again, into this whole retirement planning mode, which really Vanguard, we've used Vanguard before, great funds, but has really never been in the planning mode.
Right. Yeah, they're just shifting from, like I said, that assets under management mode to really retooling to be able to provide plans. And a lot of the time we see people come in from some of these bigger financial institutions, they don't have much of a plan. They've got statements and think that's what they're going to be using, maybe a retirement calculator of sorts, but really no plan.
And another thing, now, granted, we have to watch this too. I mean, our firm is growing. We've had to raise our minimum accounts. But as we're getting ready to see in this next article, these larger firms, a lot of them are putting pressure on their advisors to kind of avoid what they would call smaller accounts. Let's refer to this article. This is Merrill Lynch. What's going on with a big company like Merrill Lynch?
Yeah, so they're really pushing advisors to find those larger accounts.
And most of them, what, $500,000 and above, even $1 million, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's a numbers game for these bigger firms. And when they're working with more and more savers, a lot of times they're just advisors. They don't have as much service staff. So to have all these clients that they can't really serve, they're going to tighten that down to less clients, bigger account size. But that's leaving a lot of savers out there without advisors.
I met a prospective couple yesterday, nice couple. They're starting to already do a little business with us, but I presented the game plan. And he said, you know what made me upset? My last advisor is with a big company, but would not move a lot of my assets when I asked him to. And I said, why do you think he did? And he said, I'll tell you what I think he did, and it's just what you said. It's him and a secretary, and to probably move all that money was going to take a lot of work, and he just suggested he stay put. And he said, I didn't like that. I wanted it moved, but he said, I have a feeling he didn't have the capability to move it. But just an opinion. Let's go to the next article. Now, again, this is an example of swimming with the sharks. Merrill Lynch, great firm. We're not getting on Merrill Lynch, but what's this article all about, Trey?
Well, it was an advisor that was dinged for some fraud, and it was Medicare-related fraud. That's the problem with more and more advisors out there. There's going to be some bad apples. And when you're out there meeting with these people, they're all literally trying to sell you their services. But there are going to be some bad folks out there. While they may call themselves fiduciaries, they're not always acting in your best interest. So you really do need to get a plan in place and find someone you can trust.
And I think, too, on a local basis, a lot of our clients are savers. Investors and speculators work with these big companies, and they kind of know what to look for. A lot of our clients will admit, if they really are honest, I don't even know what I'm looking at with these statements. I call these 1-800 numbers. They're very confused and they're scared. They really do feel like they're swimming with the sharks because they don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, you have to take someone's word for it eventually. If this financial world is not your thing, the way we are able to put a game plan together and visually show someone what they have is going to provide them a lifetime of income that they're not going to outlive. That's the aha moment. And when you're just kind of sold a bill of goods and told, hey, I'm going to put you in this fund, we'll do all right.
Yeah.
You really have to trust somebody. What's going to do, the taking someone's word or having a written game plan to prove that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well said, Trey. And we appreciate all that you're doing and, of course, all the staff in providing that game plan. Hopefully we can keep our clients from accidentally swimming with the sharks. So, folks, good stuff. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and our Live Well, Die Broke moment comes to us from my book, Live Well, Die Broke. You see, it's interesting, since writing this book several years ago, many people are starting to follow suit with concepts I've learned years ago, and that is this. Most people, the major mistake they make in retirement is waiting too long to spend and enjoy their money. In other words, they're stockpiling money with no plans to use and enjoy it. Now, this came out recently. I love this article. Actually, Aaron sent this to me. It says, Gen Z expects to inherit money and assets, but their boomer parents are not planning on leaving anything behind. It goes on down. Again, we talked earlier in the show about this, with over $124 trillion expected to pass hands over the next couple of generations to these younger folks. What a lot of parents are doing is what we suggest our clients are doing is, wait a minute, why do I want to just hold on to this money and leave it when I die? Why wouldn't I want to give it or use it and spend it now? Which again is back to the Live Well, Die Broke. Now, with that said, I was quoted, now this was back in 2020, as you'll notice, the Wall Street Journal interviewed me about this concept of Live Well, Die Broke. They do mention, and it's a great book by Stephen Poland called Die Broke, which was written in 1997, but Mr. Poland's book is not referencing what I'm referencing. Mr. Poland was talking about estate planning and wealthy people in the area of New York City and these places that were paying way too much in taxes when they died. Live Well, Die Broke is a retirement planning book. It is not an estate planning book. The idea is, again, with Live Well, Die Broke, you can't take it with you. So in the end, no matter how much we have, we all die broke. Now, the next book I want to reference, this is interesting. I was riding down the road the other day and heard a guy on the radio talking about the slow-go years, the no-go, go-go, I don't know. He was referencing this book from Tom Hegna. Now, I heard Mr. Hegna speak back around 2011 or so. He wrote this book. That's what Mr. Hegna was talking about. A lot of people are copying his ideas. But I have to share something. No offense to Mr. Hegna. I don't know if he actually copied from me. But all the way back in 2006, I was talking about this concept of the three halves of life. Again, this was over 20 years ago. Not only in this book, Perfecting Your Walk, but in a documentary I did, same time, about 20 to 25 years ago, called Say Goodbye to Granddad's Retirement. Now, the reason I'm bringing all this up, I'm not saying I'm some sort of soothsayer, but the difference between me and a lot of people who are now jumping into the retirement planning waters is I've been doing this so long. Folks, I've been in the retirement planning field over 25 years. I've met in person with over 20,000 savers. I've written or orchestrated more than 5,000 written game plans. Folks, I know this world of retirement very well. This is why I've kind of been ahead of the curve with things like the three halves of life, Live Well, Die Broke, and other concepts that we've brought up that are now catching hold around the rest of the financial world. So what is the three halves of life, and why is it so crucial to think this way, particularly if you're a saver and you agree with this concept that you can't take it with you? So again, in the book, Perfecting Your Walk, which is now the Worry-Free Retirement, more than 20 years ago, I noticed this phenomenon starting to taking place. Most people were treating money like their parents and grandparents. In other words, that generation of our parents and grandparents, they came out of the Depression, folks. When they got into retirement, they either didn't have a lot of money or they were afraid to spend it. They saw what could happen if you didn't stockpile and hold on to money. With all these large 401k plans and people deciding that, hey, I don't want to die with all these tax tumors out there, there's a whole nother ball game that we are dealing with in today's retirement field. So let's imagine somebody does have $1 million and it's in a tax-infested 401k plan. Now, we've talked about this before, but when you think about it, the idea of allowing it to just keep growing, this is what Wall Street and the numbers game is wanting. They want you to save more and more money until you get to these huge amounts of money. I'm not sure why anybody would want, a gajillion dollars, only to one day get to a point where you can't use or enjoy it because of health or the loss of loved ones or whatever. Then you still have all these taxes you've got to deal with. Or if you don't use it and pay the taxes, your kids are going to inherit the tax tumor. Makes no sense. So Live Well, Die Broke says there are 3 halves of life. The first half is generally between the ages of 35 to around 55. That's the time of life when people are trying to work hard and just save as best they can. That's why we generally don't work with people in this age group. We're trying to work with people that are at least at halftime or in the second half of life. Now, why do we focus on people at halftime in the second half? Again, halftime is generally around 55 to 70. And the second half is around 70 plus. This differs for different people. A lot of it depends on your lifestyle, health, etc. But just kind of ballpark, that's what we're looking for. Because we know when people get in this time frame of halftime, that's when they need to have a plan to use and enjoy this money. But if people are going to start spending this money during halftime, they get really worried. Now, why do you think they worry about spending this money? Because they're worried at the second half, they may run out. And this is where our proprietary split IRA concept comes in. Again, this was something we were way ahead of the crowd on. A lot of people are emulating this, but this is where we diversify the spending strategy with investments. In this case, we use Charles Schwab for our investments on the front end, and generally we might put in annuities that provide that beloved
mailbox money.
So the mailbox money, by definition, is money that you can never outlive. We don't turn on the mailbox money until we get into the second half of life, folks. Why do we not turn it on? Because once you turn on the mailbox money, it is not flexible. It's not meant to be flexible. It's meant to make sure you don't run out of money. That's why we need all this flexibility and getting money that you can have access to during halftime, because who knows what you might want to do with it. That's another reason you all need to slow down. Many of you are rushing out there. You're throwing all your money in these long-term bonus annuities. You are taking away all the flexibility you're going to need at halftime. So there's a lot we can go into, but here's what I would suggest. If this sounds like you, if you like this concept of Live Well, Die Broke, you're looking for somebody you can trust that seems more concerned about you enjoying your money versus them just taking it from you and holding on to it, then we need to talk. And we've made this so easy. We call it the 10-minute free fiduciary phone call. To set up your call with me, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. We'll be right back.
This Tony Walker Financial 5-star review comes to us from Debbie. If you are retirement age and need help arranging a worry-free retirement plan, Tony and staff are the ones to trust to get it done. My husband and I first contacted Tony about 10 years ago. He got to know us and our situation and then developed a plan that was right for us. We are 5 years into retirement at this point and all is going well as planned. We use the Louisville office, which is very nice and a convenient location with plenty of convenient parking. Communication between Tony's staff and clients is always excellent, being professional and prompt. I feel Tony and staff are very trustworthy and you can depend on them having your best interests at heart. P.S. Tony has a client appreciation event every year, which is super nice of him. That's just the kind of guy he is. Thanks, Tony. If you'd like to read more of our 5-star reviews, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Our client spotlight today shines brightly on Ron and Diana Foster, and welcome to the studios here at Worry Free Productions. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tony.
Tell us a little bit about the process you went through in finding an advisor and the number of years. Actually, you said you've kind of been considering this.
We found you on the television, watched it a couple times, and we found ourselves kind of learning as we go.
What was it about Tony Walker Financial that finally put the decision in your hands to say, let's do this?
Who we talked to before wasn't really a good fit. Coming here, this was our home.
Yeah. Gave us the tools and things to help us understand the process and become comfortable with this choice. And Ron said it best, it was a good fit because we felt like our investment money, our hard-earned dollar, could be put into different buckets that were more secure for us in the future.
Would you describe, if you don't mind, I'm very proud of the staff here, as you know, the feelings you've had in terms of working with the staff and the ease of the staff? Any comments about that so far?
From the time we walked in the door, everyone here, it was an easy process for us to come in and get to know everybody. And when we left, we talked about it. It was an easy choice to make. We were still getting the tools necessary to understand the process, and that was sent home with us as well. So when we decided this is a good fit, Ron said, this is where I feel comfortable in making sure my money for the future is secure.
Well, good. Well, we're glad to have you on board and look forward, hopefully, to many years of serving your retirement needs. So thank you, Fosters.
Thank you very much, Tony.
You're welcome.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, 403b, thrift savings account, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 40 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker here, and we have some special guests in all the way from Des Moines, Iowa. We have to my left Mr. Mark Williams and his cohort, Mr. Scott Truca. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming all the way to Louisville, Kentucky.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks very much.
Well, the last time I saw you, Mark, in Kentucky, this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. In fact, we even put a video together.
That's right.
You came all the way to Bowling Green, Kentucky. Why did you bring your crew to Bowling Green? Do you remember at that time?
I sure do. You're a very special producer for our office. We do business with about 60,000 contracted agents nationwide. Every single year out of that 60,000, there's probably 10 or 15,000 that will write a piece of business with us. And you're in our top 1%. And so for us, that's a very good customer. So for me, I still love to see face-to-face. And so that original visit was to come and see you and see your office and see how you work.
So Scott, tell us a little bit about Brokers International. In essence, what do you all do exactly?
Yeah, so Brokers International is one of the oldest and largest independent marketing organizations in the industry, or an IMO. We help distribute life insurance and annuity products through agencies just like yourself. So we provide some marketing support, a lot of back office capabilities, contracting, new business, those kinds of things to help folks like you grow your agencies.
And I really appreciate all your all's efforts, and it's been a great partnership. Now, it's 2025. We're recording this show in September of 2025. Either gentleman, you can step in here, but what changes are going on in your all side of the industry in terms of the supply side, and what are you seeing in the terms of agents and advisors and what they're doing?
Yeah, so there's probably two big trends I'm seeing in the industry today. The first is automation. For sure, technology. The insurance industry was really slow to adopt new technology. In fact, up until COVID, most insurance companies required a signature on an application. Today, they have electronic applications, as you well know. So I think technology is one big shift we're seeing, which is coming all the way down to point of sale for your customers. I'm sure you're showing them software output. Oftentimes, many of our producers are using either TV or radio or iPads right at the point of sale. So technology is one big trend. The other is our agents. We have an aging field force. And Scott will talk a little bit about just the average age of the agent and what that means for the consumer.
I love that you brought that up because sometimes, Scott, people will talk to me. I mean, I'm 65 years old. I've done this a long time. And they say this in a polite way, but they'll say, Tony, this all sounds great, but what happens if something happens to you? So is that a legitimate question for a consumer to ask an advisor?
I think so. I think, for folks like yourself, you're always thinking about what would happen, if for some reason my clients did have to go to somebody else and you built a staff to help support a lot of that. I think for the industry, that's a question we all have to answer at some point. As Mark had mentioned, I did a little research, and the average agent or advisor is 56 years old, which I think is maybe a concern. I think as an industry, we need to start talking about the opportunities that we have to help people here and bring in some of the younger folks and attract them to the industry.
Yeah, I know in our practice, I have my favorite son-in-law, Trey, my favorite nephew, Wes, but I feel very fortunate to have found these young men because I've got Heather in the Bowling Green office and she could run the place if something happened to me. But, she's, maybe 10 years, who knows what she'll be doing. So what is going on in the industry? Is there any efforts being made to try to recruit younger advisors?
Interestingly enough, the health side of the business, which we don't even offer products on the health side, but the health side of the insurance industry is recruiting heavily. So what brokers have started to do is really focus on the agent that is in the health market that would like to expand his practice. Those agents tend to be a little bit younger, a little bit more tech savvy. So for us, we come in and we introduce new product lines to the age of client in which they're working with already, helps them increase some revenue, offer more products and services to their customers. So it's really worked out well.
And I know, Mark, you've been in the industry roughly how many years?
36 now. 36.
So you've seen a lot of insurance companies out there, been around a lot of them. What concerns maybe should we share with a consumer that goes, okay, these insurance companies and writing annuities and life insurance, how safe are these companies?
Yeah, it's always a great question, right? You're putting your money into a product that you might not use for 10, 15, 20, 25, in the case of life insurance, hopefully a long time. So the first thing you want to take a look at is the stability of the company. And there are ratings and rating services, which I'm sure that you can offer your carriers, but the insurance companies are rated. So that's number one. How's their financial strength? Their claims paying ability goes into that rating as well. The second thing is that every insurance company is backed by a state insurance department. So they are backed by the states. Each individual state has an insurance department, and there is some backing when it comes to funds like that, much like the bank. And something to really feel for your customers to feel comfortable with is no insurance company has ever defaulted on a product. Never. When an insurance company has gone into receivership, other companies come in and buy their books of business. So one of the wonderful things about the insurance industry is it takes care of its own, even those carriers that run into some financial problem.
Good stuff, Mark. Okay, my last question, I'll throw it over to you, Scott. We did something a couple of years ago. I got with my favorite nephew, Wes. I said, Wes, can you do some studies? How many advisors are within a 5-mile radius of Tony Walker Financial in Louisville? He came up, now this includes insurance agents, 2,000 advisors. So my question is, and maybe you can help us here, how's a consumer supposed to figure out of those 2,000 who to possibly turn over their life savings to?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that I actually just had to cover with my parents not too long ago. They're nearing retirement, and they were asking me, who do I go to, Scott? You're in this industry. And I said, well, go to somebody that's going to ask you all the right questions. What does retirement look like for you? What does that look like? Travel, income-wise? Do you want to leave a legacy? Do you have grandkids? What's most important to you? Make sure that they're meeting your needs. And then what's the plan going forward? Are you going to meet on a regular basis? What's that relationship going to look like? And find somebody you're comfortable with. And that's the advice that I gave my parents.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, we're about out of time. I want to thank you. I think you came in earlier today. We're going to spend a little more time together talking shop. But thank you for taking time to be on camera. And thank you so much, Mark and Scott, for all that you do at Brokers International for advisors such as us.
Well, back at you. Thank you very much for the business that we've done and the collaboration that we have. So really appreciate you being here.
You're more than welcome.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. To speak with me at any time, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Or if the internet's not your thing, just call us at 877-499-9255.